Hey, Ashley.
I'm so sorry. I thought we were on Zoom tonight, so I was
No, they changed because there's parks meeting right now,
got it.
so
Okay.
they put them on the Zoom, and we got the glorious WebEx.
I was so um,
You
but
know, hold on. One of our speakers is trying to connect to the audio. Um, let's see. Chanel, are you still on the line, or is it Ebenezer now?
No, it's me.
Yeah. One of our people, he was having a problem connecting to the audio. David Eisenbach, you happen to know if that on his end or is it on our end?
I believe that's on his end.
Okay. Because he
Yeah.
doesn't know how to turn it on. I said it was at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, it should be.
I don't know if he can't seem to find it. I'm going to call him real quick. So I'm going to mute myself for a minute so I can kind of help him. Just hold on 1 second, everybody. Okay. Hi everybody. So, we were just waiting. There was one of our speakers is having a technical difficulty. He's going to try to. He can't connect to the audio for some reason. It lets him connect to the video. So he doesn't see the buttons at the top. So Chanel, I don't know what that means, but like we could see file, edit, share, view, audio and video, participant, meeting, help, and he can't see any of that. So not sure what that means.
I don't know why either.
Yeah, but he's gonna try to come back in, and we'll see if if he's still having that same problem. But
Okay, hopefully it gets resolved.
yeah, because I don't know why he wouldn't be able to. That's why I don't like using WebEx because it's not as user friendly
Yeah.
as Zoom. It's harder for people who are not really familiar with it to use it. But anyway, we're gonna get started, and when he said he'll keep trying, and hopefully we can get him in. But I don't know if you could start recording because we're gonna get started.
Okay.
And Ashley, you're taking minutes, right? Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley. Okay, so welcome everybody to Business Development Committee meeting. We're going to open up the meeting at 7:11 p.m. and we have a few exciting things to talk about. But first, as you notice, I'm not Domingo. He was unable to be here due to an emergency, and so I'm just stepping in to help out with him step in to chair the meeting in his absence tonight. First things we want to do. I don't have any particular opening remarks other than it's to check in with people. It's been a wild week, as everybody is pretty much aware. Um, you know, hopefully, the change at the top, the very federal top, will result in more assistance on a local level for our businesses in New York in general. And hopefully that will make a difference. I don't know if anybody else has any other thoughts about that, but in my mind, it can only go up from here. So, um, anybody else have any thoughts on that before we approve the agenda? Look at the agenda and approve it.
I couldn't agree more on putting humanity, people, businesses, like smaller businesses, not large corporations, over profits. So we'll see how the rest of the legal stuff plays out as Trump contests this win.
Yes.
But but I am pretty. I'm just satisfied that he's gone.
Yeah, maybe we'll get some of that money that was assistance to trickle down finally
Yeah,
to the local, our local business community, as it should have, instead of major corporations. I see David. Yay! Just have to unmute yourself. Just unmute yourself at the bottom. Unmute.
Oh, I see down there.
Yep, you're with us. Yay! Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh,
Awesome. So glad it worked out. So we are recording.
yeah, me too.
And so what we're going to do now is, if no one else has any comments or anything, we're going to move into the approval of the agenda. So I'm going to share my screen so everybody can see that. So board members, you can tell me if it's cool. Okay, so our agenda today, we don't have any small business testimonies today because of the last minute switch. But we'll be reaching out to some folks, and I know we talked about in our last meeting. We're going to start reaching out to some retailers, from the retail side of our business community, to sort of hear a little bit more from them in terms of what they've been experiencing and the challenges they're facing. We can look out for that for next month. But the committee business today, we're going to hear from. We have a couple presentations from New York City Department of Health about COVID. in small business. So we're really excited to have them here today. I'm just going to add their names that wasn't really on the agenda. We have John Patmore and Pauline Ferranti. Ferranti, right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Okay. And so we're going to hear from them first, and then we're going to hear from David Eisenbach, who has been very active. We've been working with him for a while now, actually, on advocating for the Small Business Job Survival Act, SBJSA, which would, if it were to pass, would provide some much needed protections for our small business owners and here. So we look forward to hearing his presentation. I wanted to just open up the space for this new Open Storefronts program, just to sort of, check in, make sure everybody's aware of this program, what this program is, what it's doing. Hopefully next month we'll be able to have someone from DOT to come and talk with us about that program and anything that our business needs to know, and for us to better educate them, and any potential challenges they may experience as a result of that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, and then we'll hear if there are any updates from our community partner. We do have Cloth here. Hi, L'Oreal. And so I'm going to add the names of the people from DOH. That's the only real change, and we don't have any small business testimonies, so that'll be removed. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Okay, Ashley, any second?
Motion.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ashley and Juan. Okay. Okay, so great. So so I wanted to again thank you to the DOH for being here today, and wanted to just open up the space. I don't know who would go first, John or Pauline. You all choose. And
I'm going to defer to Padmore for him to give the update, because I believe he is doing a lot on the ground level with his action center. So Padmore, feel free to share all that information that you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing us the space to get on. Just a few corrections to the agenda. I know it's officially going to be recorded.
yes.
He
Sound
just
went
joined
out.
as well. Hello,
Yeah,
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Your sound just went out. What were you saying before? You said you
No,
need
I
a
was-
correction? John?
Yeah, the first name is Padmore, last name is John, but we can move on. I also just want to let
I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing you. You were cutting out for me. Was he cutting out for other people? Yeah. So can you go back to your very beginning of your statement? Because I didn't hear anything you said. I'm so sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I just wanted to give a quick correction to the name. The first name is Padmore and the last name is John.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, sorry about that. I'll correct that. Okay.
So
Okay.
to just Dr. Noah Maniendo is on. He's the
Okay.
Assistant Commissioner for the East Harlem Action. We're located in East Harlem. We are addressing and supporting across the whole of the Upper Manhattan. So East, Central, West Harlem, and Washington Heights / Inwood in terms of where we are providing support and resources. So before I go much further, I'll let Dr. Maniendo go to give a broader overview of what's happening in terms of the COVID-19 updates, and then I'll just come in with a little bit more on the ground stuff that we're doing as well. Dr. Maniendo?
Can you spell the last name? I'm sorry, just for the record. Norm, you said Dr. Norm?
No.
Hi everyone. This is Dr. Maniendo. Let me thank you all for having us join your meeting today. So my first name is spelled Noel, as in Christmas, Noel.
Okay.
Noel.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And then my last name is spelled Manindo. So my last name is pronounced Manindo, and it's spelled M as in Mary, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, Y as in yes, I as in India, N as in Nancy, D as in David, O. So that's Manindo.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. So
You're
we can
most
have it
welcome.
accurate. Appreciate it. Mm-hmm.
You're most welcome, most welcome. And again, thank you so much for having us on. As Padmore mentioned, Padmore, my colleague, works with me in the Upper Manhattan Bureau, the Harlem Bureau. The Action Center is a part of that bureau, but we have another building and another location in Central Harlem. And then we've also been under the COVID-19 emergency response. We've been spearheading response work at the neighborhood level in Washington Heights as well for the emergency response group. Of course, in collaboration with others within DOHMH, and so, but we've been the lead team on that. And so, just very quickly, just giving you a broad update on everything that's been going on with COVID, as you are all I'm sure very aware, the numbers and the rates, what we call the test positivity, has been going up in several areas of the city, and it seems to be increasing almost every day. We're adding a new geographical area to the map of affected areas. Now, not every area is an all-out hotspot, but when we say increasing, we just mean the percent of people that are getting tested that are coming back as positive. We were trying to keep that number below 2%, and we're seeing a number of places going above 2%. And the signals come and go. Sometimes a place might bubble up above 2% and maybe get to 2.2, 2.3, and then come back down after that. But we're seeing a number of spaces. So initially in 10033 in Washington Heights, there was a non-statistically significant increase, but it was enough to trigger the team, a response from the team, in which we reached out to 163 community partners. We reached out to pharmacies, clinical providers, including the small clinical providers, and the small community pharmacies. We provided them with information, downloadable information that is in multiple languages, just regarding the key guidance, the key, what we call the core four things, the factors that are, that can prevent the transmission of COVID. So of course, wearing a mask, thorough hand washing, keeping a physical distance, and avoiding groups, and also staying home if you're sick. We also talked to them about test and trace. So for all the folks that are testing positive, to expect these calls, and we know folks feel a certain way about calls from government, but we wanted folks to know that these are calls that are important, because if we're able to isolate the people who are testing positive and trace their contacts, we're able to try to contain as much of this as possible. But so we did all of that. We also spoke to some of the partners and did joint webinars with them. We did presentations to their constituents. We also sent them, for those that requested, hard materials. So they wanted flyers, palm cards, they wanted floor decals. We did all of that. We made sure that stuff was ordered and sent to them. We also came out on occasion and did mask distributions in the area. We did that in partnership with other community partners who are known in the neighborhood, in the community. And so all of this helped, together with all the efforts of everybody else, 10033 sort of came back down again. And then we saw neighboring zip codes start to flare up a little bit. So right now, the one that's on the map is 10034. And then if you come a little south from there, 10031 and 10039 are sort of the ones that are that are showing up on the map right now as having above 2% test positivity. So just so you know, if we hit 3%, then the city and the state, the city of New York has set that as the threshold where decisions will be reviewed in terms of closing schools, closing businesses in certain areas where that is happening. We haven't hit that threshold as yet. There were other parts of the city that you may have heard of in the news in the last few weeks, in specific areas of Brooklyn and Queens and in certain communities over there, where the percentage was hitting 6%, 8%, in some instances even above 10%. And so, that's not to minimize the percentages that we were seeing here, but it's just to say that those were full-on hotspots. And there we mobilized, hundreds of city workers to go down on the ground and try to really get in the community, distribute flyers, and sort of stay there every day and just sort of be there and providing information, ready to answer questions. So we haven't escalated it to that level just because we're still responding to some of those other areas. And, we're trying to keep as many people mobilized for those areas. And also the percentage hasn't, gone as high as that. But we just want you guys to know, to be aware that what we're called the Harlem Neighborhood Response Team, but really we're part of DOHMH, the emergency response work that's going on together with many other colleagues. We are sending information, we're providing information to partners, we're making phone calls, we are also we're also trying to get intel. Are folks seeing, are they concerned about anything? We heard from restaurant owners, for example, that it was a little challenging sometimes to be able to have patrons, wear their masks all the time, or the folks keeping a distance when they come in to eat. And when the music is playing, more people come out and, folks wanted to enjoy the weather and be together. And there was that fatigue we keep hearing about, the coronavirus fatigue, where folks are just tired of keeping the
doctor, that was great. It really gives us some insight, and we are concerned about the getting to that 3%. That's a big concern. We don't want to have to get to the point where we're shutting down our businesses again. That could be really detrimental. So I'm going to open it up, just let people ask you any questions they may have before we move into Padmore. But one of the things I'll start, and then I can open it up to any questions anybody else on the committee or anyone else may have. But I wanted to find out, I know you're saying you're giving out, there are certain materials that you're distributing and those sort of things. But are you looking at different languages to talk to like business in terms of just like how to communicate to businesses? Because the concerns that businesses may have is very different from maybe, the concerns or the challenges that individuals are having around distancing and things like that. Because what's happening is obvious, as you mentioned, businesses ultimately will pay a price, right? If their patrons are not, adhering to the social distancing rules and the mask wearing. So how is DOH, doing special communication to the business community, or are you doing that? And if not, do you think there's a need to sort of figure out a way to sort of, center, how to communicate with them in a way that sort of addresses their particular unique challenges around this issue?
That's a really great question, and I'm sure Padmore wanted to say something on that as well. But my first take on that is right from the very beginning of this pandemic. Unfortunately, I mean, you guys all remember when we had the New York pause, and the whole place was shut down, except for essential services, including businesses and hospitals and other things like that. Right there and then we identified and understood that essential workers and essential businesses, were going to be really, really critical in however we think of a response. And at the neighborhood level, we were very, very proactive in trying to engage with. At that point, it was a small number. It was supermarkets, it was bodegas, corner stores. It was a handful of types of businesses that were even able to be open at the time. But we were reaching out to them even about their staff and how they're doing. And, are they, just trying to make sure we get the latest information out to them. At that time, there was a little bit of we didn't know what we knew more recently about masks and things like that. So, once that changed, then we try to make sure we get that word out to people and so on and so forth. But I think, so the point you make is a really good one. And I only say what I just said to say that the need, we recognize that the need even is evolving with the different phases of this pandemic. And so you're right. I think there needs to continue to be a thoughtful and even tailored response to the needs of business people and businesses. And I think our colleagues, for example, at Small Business Services, New York City SBS, we reached out to them, and there was a number of things they were working on and have continued to work on. And, we just felt like there was no need to duplicate some of those things. But we do continue to have engagements with particularly the small retailers and the restaurants in particular, because that's where, people end up coming together in smaller spaces, and the risk of transmission tends to be a little bit higher. And so we've continued to do that. And actually, we include businesses in a lot of our outreach and engagement, and the language and materials that we're sharing were actually not. These are the ones that are used to share with partners. So organizations, less so individuals. This is more the materials that you'd see, like when I go into some of the bodegas and I see the floor decals that they're using, I see some of the posters in different languages up on their wall or outside on their window, on their storefront, on the sidewalk. And that type of thing, it's gratifying to see some of those things, and really hoping that people that are patronizing those spaces are seeing it. And we know that's not always the case, but hopefully some people are able to see that stuff. But I think so. Just to point out that I think the materials were crafted for organizational use, and so right. I don't know. I can't really say, to be honest with you, that it was created for businesses. I think it's the same language that maybe a community-based organization might use. There's some language for faith-based organizations. There's language for different types of organizations. But if there are insights that you have or anybody has where you feel, and we can share those materials with you, and you guys can look at them. I think we have folks have been requesting them and using them. But if there are things that you feel, insights that you would like to share with us about how to maybe tailor them more tightly to the needs of businesses, we're always listening. We're always listening. Yeah. The Harlem team, the Upper Manhattan team, will take your insights and share them with our colleagues in communications and so on, and try to see if we can implement anything that you guys are sending our way that makes sense. We'd be happy to do that. We've tried to do that in the past. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think a tailored message just specifically targeted to businesses would be very important and key, I think.
Yeah,
So,
we've done some of that. We've definitely kind of specific targeted towards restaurants, for example. Specifically speaking about social distancing, how to even social responsibly, or even if you go out together, how to be able to make sure that you're keeping your distance, that type of stuff. So there's some documentation that is very specifically targeted towards businesses, small businesses, restaurants, and the like, including some of the decals. But I think this is part of the reason why we wanted to be here today. One is to kind of give you the information, the update that Dr. Manyendo provided, but also to kind of create an opening between us and you, that when you do have ideas like what you have indicated, that you want to be able to ensure that businesses, organizations that are in your catchment area, how they can best be provided information, support, resources. How is the best way for us to be able to get it to them? I mean, one of the things that we have been doing in some of the other spaces that we have been working with is to get with a business or trade organization, and we kind of make that connection with them. We provide them some of the information, and then they pass it on to the other businesses, their businesses that are part of that organization. We've also had this conversation with them, trying to target the messaging that we are getting out to them. So they have been helpful. But knowing that, I know that a lot of different businesses in front of this committee, and you're able to speak to some of the small businesses directly themselves, and you're hearing some things on the ground that we may not necessarily be hearing, being able to pass on that information to us and just have that relationship with you all, that we are able to get that information from you, will be very appreciative. And so definitely that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be here and to continue to be here going forward.
Yes. Thank you, Pat Moore. Any other questions for the doctor, or before we move on to Pat Moore's presentation? Anybody? You can just unmute yourselves and ask your question if you have any questions.
I have a question. Is that okay? Yeah. All right. So how much I was reading about some of the about the situation up here, and apparently there was, and I read another article that said most of the spread of the virus is being linked to gyms and supermarkets and big box stores and things like that. Is that true, or is that for certain areas and not our area? Or, I was just wondering, is there any sort of a pattern to the spread?
Sure. What we're seeing, I think what we know is, regardless of the specific location or the specific setting, I think what we're seeing now is it's a lot of the spread that's happening is people gathering indoors. And so some of it may be, in fact, in businesses like what you mentioned, gyms and other places, but some of it is also what they call super spreader events, or just events where the virus is able to go from one person to another and to another and to another in relatively short order, because people stay in crowded areas together. So if you look at New York One or any of the news channels, you'll see that the police are busting up an illegal gathering and 400 people in a warehouse in Brooklyn somewhere, dancing the night away, whatever, and those types of things. Something like that, then those people disperse and go to go home and visit their relatives, or then hang out with other people, go from one party to another, and it just spreads like fire in some of those settings. I think what we're seeing is, as the temperatures start to cool and people start to move indoors, there is a small degree of protection in being outdoors and being in an aerated environment. So if you're able to keep space and you're outdoors and you're wearing a mask, the risk of spreading is lower than if you're indoors. And, worse still, you're indoors and you're in close proximity to other people for lengthy periods of time. So it may be, and the gyms have specific regulations in order to be able to open. They have to have a certain air ventilation capability in the gym. They have to be, I think that they can be no more than 33% capacity. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's 25 or 33% capacity at any given time. Folks must wear masks, and sometimes folks are doing exercise, don't want to wear the mask, but for them to be in the gym, they've got to wear the mask, and they've got to be spaced. So it can't be like how it used to be, when every single treadmill and every single piece of equipment right next to each other in tight spaces, and each one of them is being used, and there's folks in the waiting area waiting to get in and all that kind of stuff. It has to be spaced a certain way, and so we're really, really encouraging, and we know it's not always easy, but encouraging the business community. Guidance has been provided in terms of the reopening, and we've done presentations to businesses in particularly in East and West Harlem around the reopening guidance and things like that. This was a couple of months ago, and that was really the hot topic at that time. But if folks are able to stay in keeping with those guidance and enforce that, just from the business standpoint, I think that might really be a useful key in helping to curb the transmission. So to answer your question, I think it's the indoor spaces now that are kind of concerning. People get indoors, the mask may drop down, and then they get close enough, and if you stay in the vicinity of others long enough, if somebody there has this virus and is spreading it, if somebody there is infectious in that space, there's a great deal of risk for the other people in that space. And so it's really those indoor gatherings. Sometimes those are harder to even see because, it's behind closed doors most of the time. I think that's where the issue that we're seeing is. It's really those indoor gatherings that we're seeing now. So be it in the stores or be it in, just as I've mentioned, people coming together to have a party, people coming together to celebrate, whatever the case may be. I think some of that is that's I think a bigger, a significant driver of what we're seeing now.
Can I ask one more question, or is there?
Yeah, quickly, and then we're gonna move on to Pat Moore.
Okay, so how about outdoor gatherings where people are close and not wearing masks? Can that spread it too?
It potentially could, but I think so. I'm thinking from a business standpoint. I'm thinking outdoor restaurant spaces. And if a family decide to go out and have a meal together, and they're wearing their masks, but when they get to the table and the food is served, they have to pull down the mask to eat, right? So in that situation, hopefully, and if the restaurant is doing the spacing, and I think indoor there's also a cap. I think there's a 25% cap. In the indoor capacity, some restaurants are taking advantage of the Open Streets initiative, so they're able to bring some of that outdoors. So it's almost like in an enclosure, but it's outdoors. Even then they have to follow the guidance, the guidelines, and then the restaurant employees must wear masks and continue to even though they're serving the food. But it's just when folks get to eating, they have to take the mask down so they can eat. But hopefully, they're 6 feet away from the next table, at least 6 feet away from the next table, and hopefully there's not a big group of them, and hopefully that space is only at 25% capacity.
Okay.
So
I was just going to point out that in this neighborhood, there is a unique situation in which a lot of people gather together very close outside, no masks. A lot of times, That doesn't sound good at all. That sounds disturbing.
It's true, and I think Pauline was very good in terms of telling us what we can do if we witness things like that, and she put that in the chat in response to Bernard's question about that. That people can email her. She put her email in the chat. And they can forward. They can also she will forward it to the mayor's office of special enforcement. So if people are witnessing these things, they should let people know. And there are resources out there that can address this. So I just wanted us to know that there are options for that if people are witnessing that. Just so we know. Any questions? Other questions? We can circle back to the doctor after we hear from Pat Moore and Pauline, and see if we have any questions we can ask after they've given their presentation. So I'm gonna give the baton to you, Pat Moore, and let you take it.
All right, thank you very much. And I'm not going to take too long because a lot of the stuff that Dr. Manju spoke about was basically get across. But one of the key things I wanted to just speak about is just what are some of the things that we are looking to do with partners on the ground at the moment. We have identified partners as Dr. Manju had indicated, there was an email that had gone out just alerting some of the partners across Upper Manhattan to the fact that there are certain upticks in certain zip codes. One of the things that we're looking to do at the moment is try and be able to have resources and materials that is available to distribute to partners so that one, they can pass it on to their own participants or residents, or two, they can pass it on to other organizations that they work with. So one of the things just we wanted to just put out there is, how we might be able to get some of this information to the community board, whether it's this particular committee, if the committee might have connections to various businesses, and how we might be able to get them out there to those locations as well. We're in the process. Hopefully by this Friday, we're getting some new material in, some new flyers and posters that will be available, speaking about social distancing, wearing the mask, decals. So these are some of the things that you were speaking about earlier, Anya, being able to get some of these items, and they're in a variety of languages, from English, Spanish. Some of them are even in Mandarin and French for any of the local businesses that may be speaking in that deal in those particular languages. So it's really about how we might just be able to get connected and have an opportunity to continue to get information to you, get resources to you that may be helpful as you walk through your community and as you're seeing some of these things that you're talking about. The other thing, of course, is for us to be able to get information about what's happening on the ground. Oftentimes I'll go to various locations throughout Upper Manhattan just to kind of see what's happening, ensure that things have been okay. I have been to the 168th Street Express COVID testing site right there, which is in a DOHMH building. To want to see whether or not there's a lot of individuals that you may know that are utilizing that space. If there are other spaces that may be better for a temporary pop-up type of testing site. There are certain places there's certain individuals that we have been working with in East Harlem and Central Harlem that have been very helpful in terms of doing flu vaccinations as well as COVID testing. And so potentially that we might be able to bring some of those tests in there as well. So we just want to, just as I said before, be able to open up a means and methods of communication between us and the committee, us and the committee. But specifically that we are able to help as much as possible in terms of making sure that resources are going to the places that they are needed. So I'll put my email in the chat as well. Tanya, you can have it. And then anyone that may wish to be able to reach out to me, they can do so.
Thank you, Pat Moore. Thank you so much. We'll move on to Pauline and we'll circle back for questions. So Pauline, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. So I just wanted to offer our support in terms of gathering together the agencies that deal with business reopening, because I know that we are often here at the DOHMH often asked a lot of questions about business and restaurant reopening specifically. And unfortunately, you know, it's a lot of different agencies that are involved in different aspects of reopening. And so we might not always have all the answers, which is very frustrating for people. We definitely understand that. And so my goal for tonight was to hear specifically from the business community as to what questions they had, and then be able to be a resource to pull together, you know, whether it's Department of Consumer and Worker Protection or Small Business Services and the Mayor's Office of Special Enforcement, so we can all really talk together about what each of our roles are as it pertains to outdoor dining and indoor dining. And then now as the mayor extended outdoor dining, you know, to be a permanent thing as the weather gets colder and structures are coming up. You know, we're hearing lots of questions about whether these structures are legal and how many people are allowed in there. And all of these questions are absolutely things that should be addressed. And I think, you know, having the right agency representatives at these conversations is the most helpful. So what I would love to hear from your group tonight is sort of what your questions are, and then to be able to be that conduit to pull together those other agency liaisons so that we can all be useful to you at another meeting.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome if we can have everybody here together. So we can, you know, revisit this conversation, because you're correct. There are things that DOT, you know, enforces, and things that they do, and there are things that you do in the Office of Special Enforcement. You know, we have so many people involved, and you're correct. You know, we need to talk to all of them. So definitely, you know, let the chair know about, you know, that's something that, you know, you suggest, and hopefully we'll be able to pull that together. And we definitely would love to have your support in getting those people before us, helping us get the right people before us so we can have a great substantive conversation. Any questions for Pat Moore or Pauline about any of what they presented tonight from any board members first? Any questions from board members? No. Any questions from the public for Pat Moore and Pauline? Going once, going twice. Okay, I had a
Can I,
question.
sorry,
Sure.
sorry, Tanya. Oh, okay. No, ask your question first, and then I have one last thing to leave with everyone before before we all end the evening, because it's very important. So just ask your question though.
Oh, no. My question was to Pat Moore. You mentioned you mentioned local partners. Are you working with any local partners in Washington Heights and Inwood? If so, who are those partners? I'm just sort of curious in terms of, who.
The partner that we were able to work with previously was but one of the houses right there, Eagle Avenue and 185th, I believe. One of the NYCHA houses. And so we were able to partner with the resident association president there. We were able to do some giveaways with masks and some sanitizers, some flyers, some information to that extent. But we definitely want to be able to work with other partners. And as Dr. Maniendo had mentioned, there are a few, and we expect some few of the partners part of a grant that has been funded by the Department of Health in terms of getting information and messaging to very specific communities. We understand that all communities are not the same. That goes to one, they have to be tailored very specifically to the individuals within that community. So we were able to have grants of a variety of organizations in certain parts of the city, including Upper Manhattan, including in the Washington Heights, Inwood area. And so there are a few organizations that we have partnered, just not calling the names at the moment. But it's also to let you know that we are looking to work with other partners as well. Any of them that you suggest, have a pretty strong footing on the ground, that they might be able to utilize some of the resources we be able to bring. It'd be very helpful if we can make those connections as well.
Yeah, I was going to. I mean, I'm not volunteering anyone, but I know we have cloth here tonight, so I don't know if maybe you all can have a conversation if that's something they might be interested in doing. So I don't know, L'Oreal, do you think that is something you would take back?
I would actually was hoping to reach out to Pauline and also to Padmore just to get some ideas, particularly in Inwood. I'm seeing a lot more frequent larger gatherings inside, so it doesn't seem like there's as much monitoring. But I would like to reach out to you so we can also discuss what's going on in Washington Heights, 10033 in particular.
Would you want to would you put your email in the chat so they can have it?
Surely.
Yeah, and then you all can connect and see. It was another agency I would like to suggest. I don't know if you have not already made contact with them, but it's the Northern Manhattan Coalition for Immigrant Rights as well. Yeah, and they do a lot of work with the community, and also can engage with the Spanish speaking part of our community very well. And so it's just a suggestion of them as well.
Thank you.
Perhaps. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think we had also sent. So in addition to what Padmore had mentioned, we actually did call and speak with and send materials to, I think it's over 100 organizations in the Washington Heights Inwood zip codes altogether. I think it was over 165 different organizations. Some of them were faith-based organizations. Some of them were like the Y. Some of them were like, there was a variety of different community-based organizations, and then some of them were businesses as well. But in addition to what Padmore mentioned, I think we had definitely, we did like a qualitative survey, and we were also trying to learn more about what folks were seeing and what they thought could, what were the issues and how, they thought we should go about, how solutions could be found. And, we did a fairly, we really tried to listen and learn. And in that process, we also, heard from partners who wanted to receive materials. And so we did that. I honestly don't remember them off the top of my head, but I know altogether we've engaged with, I think it's 163 organizations in Washington Heights and Inwood.
Awesome. Yeah, and I was going to say, is any way possible you could send me, and I'll make sure that Domingo gets this, a PDF of what some of your materials, like just, so we could just see, or, because I know it's hard to kind of mail things out at this point and we won't be able to really get it. But if you could, is there a way to sort of send us a PDF of some of it so we can get an idea of what's going on and we can offer any suggestions? Is that possible?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can do that now, Tanya. So if you just check your email when you can, you'll be in there for the ones that we are looking to print out. And yeah, and if you suggest anything else, we'll be happy to get those printed as well.
Thank you. And Pauline, you wanted to say something else that you.
So my last point is that we just came out with travel guidance for the holidays and gathering guidance. And so we strongly discourage against traveling as the holiday season approaches. And also we are discouraging any gatherings, large or small, with people outside of your immediate family. So I'm going to put in the chat the link to our guidance. But, we know that it's a really tough time in holidays. People look forward to the holidays all year long. And this year has just been, it's just been a terrible year. So, but we really just want to continue to put this messaging out there that we all just need to do our part to keep ourselves and our neighbors safe. And, to Mr. Grubman's point of people gathering, I think we are looking at ways in which we can get this messaging out to folks who are really not paying attention. We have media campaigns, we have, ads in bus shelters. Like, we're trying our best to really reach folks where they are. But again, it's really up to individuals to start taking this more seriously and to understand that it's each of our individual, our choices will benefit our community. And so we really need to not just think about ourselves, but really think about our neighbors, especially our most vulnerable neighbors. And so that's our goal, is to try to get that messaging out as best as we can. And then should enforcement need to take place, we're hoping that, that can occur as well. But again, it's really about changing hearts, right? And about getting people to really understand why this guidance is so important. So that's all I wanted to leave with, and have a good night.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having this expanded conversation with all of the agencies. Any other questions before they go? And we move on to, yeah.
I just wanted to throw in something real quick. This is Dr. Manyan. I just wanted to quickly also, so when you ask for the materials, and I'll see if Padmore, if you're forwarding anything to them, if you could also forward, I think there's and you may have to wait until tomorrow, but the message that we included in some of the outreach we did that we sent by email. So I'll circle with Padmore to make sure that we send you, so that you can see that that's like a curated list of different downloadable materials in different languages about different aspects of what's available in terms of services, support services, around testing. There's information around the COVID rapid testing lab, the DOHMH lab on 168th and Broadway, right there, that busy intersection. And there's lots of different information, including how to schedule an appointment and all that kind of stuff. So really practical, tangible information. So we'll make sure that we get you a copy of that maybe sometime tomorrow.
That's great. Oh, and I lied. I realized I had one more question, and I promise I'll make it quick. This question I meant to ask you, the city started a new program about open storefronts, which is for retailers to be able to utilize space outside of their stores. And I wanted to ask if whether that, could bring additional challenges, or is it something that you all feel like you may need to also do some outreach around that? Because we don't know how that's going to shape up. It's only through December 31st, I believe, that program is going to be in effect. But, it could get really busy around Christmas and, so around the holidays, especially like the Black Friday, that, it could get really busy and things like that. So I just want to know your thoughts, if you're willing to offer them, and, if you're willing to say anything about that.
I won't say much. I'll defer to Pauline. I know she does a lot more of the interagency, engagements, and so she may have some additional insights on that. But I mean, I do think, as you know, as Pauline had mentioned, and as I think we've all earlier in the call, you know, any of these things, you know, if they're instituted and effectuate and they're practiced the right way, hopefully there's a way to limit the risk involved. But I think, you know, as with anything, if folks show up and crowd and don't keep the distances and not wearing the masks, I think even a well-intentioned initiative, a well-intentioned approach could have challenges. So hopefully that's not the case. And I hear what you're saying about, you know, doing some messaging around that. So that's a good thought. And I think maybe, you know, we can have other conversations around that, or maybe with other colleagues from other agencies. But I don't know if Pauline or Padmore has anything else to say. I don't have any specific knowledge on that particular thing other than what I've just said.
Thank you. Pauline, would you like to add anything to that?
Not at this moment, but can you please send me an email so I can just make sure that I can follow up with the appropriate folks?
Absolutely, will do.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you so much for your time today. And I appreciate your, you know, so we got started a little late, so I do appreciate your patience. But you were very thorough. It was very informative for us, and so thank you. And we look forward to continuing this partnership. It's going to be so crucial, you know, as we continue to navigate. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We appreciate the invite. Thank you to Domingo as well. We appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to working with you all closely.
Thank you. Thank you all. Yes. Take care.
Take care. Have a good evening and be safe.
Right.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Okay. So now on our agenda, we're going to talk about the Small Business Job Survival Act. It's been a long time. I kind of feel like we're talking to an old friends, like we haven't seen for a while. And the world has changed since we had that. You're on mute.
And, yes, and it is so good to see you, Tanya. Oh, old friend. On this bill, this very old bill,
yes,
that was first introduced in 1986. And by the way, I have to teach class at 8:30, so I might have to start early. But but I'll give you what is this Small Business Job Survival Act? It was originally introduced by Ruth Messenger back in the 1980s when the phenomenon of high rent blight first hit the scene. It's what we see now, where before COVID, with real estate prices going up and more money floating around the city, we start seeing a horrific amount of empty storefronts, blocks of high-end neighborhoods like Madison Avenue, empty storefronts everywhere. And it's all caused by real estate speculation. And the problem that we have, that the landlords have figured out how to make more money not renting the storefront than renting it. And so the normal mechanism of the market, where a landlord is trying to bring in tenants, trying to collect rent, is willing sometimes to lower the rent ask in order to just get somebody in there, in that space, operating so they can get rent. That has been thrown off by real estate speculation. What the Small Business Job Survival Act does is it puts into place a system whereby every new lease that's issued in New York City to small businesses requires a provision that when the new lease, the next lease comes up, either the landlord and the tenant figure it out and come up with some agreement. But if they can't, they go in front of an arbitrator. And this is something that, high-end big businesses have, big corporate offices have. They have this provision. And what the arbiter will do is he'll get, okay, what's the number that the tenant wants to pay? What is the landlord asking? What is the context of similar spaces in the neighborhood? What are they getting for those spaces? and the arbiter rules on what is the fair rent. And so the rent still goes up. It just doesn't go up, 200% increase, right? On top of that, it eliminates the pass-alongs. Right now, you would sign a lease for a particular rent, but you would be charged with increases in the property taxes. You could get charged with all these extra charges, which would not be in the original rent agreement, but which are backed into the lease. So you could wind up getting surprised by, a $30,000 water bill, as has happened in Manhattan. So that gets eliminated, and it eliminates what we've seen, particularly with immigrant-owned businesses, which is essentially under the table payments that are required by landlords, even to get a lease offering. So we know stories of tenants, being told by their landlord, in order for you to even get a lease offer, I want $100,000 in cash under the table, not replaced. And like I said, this is particularly immigrant communities are particularly vulnerable and targeted by landlords to do that. So what this basically does is it kind of brings everything above board. It allows for a kind of a public knowledge of what all of the rents are being paid. So this is all transparency. And through that, the idea of the bill is that the landlords win, the tenant wins, and the city wins. Because at the end of the day, the city is not served by having all these empty storefronts. This is not something that contributes to the economy. It doesn't provide jobs. It doesn't provide tax revenue. And it certainly destroys the community fabric, right? The very thing that makes New York, New York, these small businesses and the diversity of neighborhoods, that is all being destroyed. Now, that was my pitch, and that's what I was saying before COVID hit. And what did COVID do? It made the situation much, much worse. I like to think, of course, that every crisis offers an opportunity. And my hope is to get momentum we had before COVID hit, get it back up and running again, and get this bill passed once and for all, because now more than ever, New York City needs SBJSA.
Where's the bill at? Where are we at with it? What happened?
Good question. Well, public hearing, this was back in 2018. This was the fall of 2018, almost 2 years, about 2 years ago. Then for the next year, my team and I were meeting regularly with Corey Johnson's legislative staff to tweak the bill, to make it so that it was ready to go. Those discussions just suddenly froze. I still have not gotten a real answer for where they were at in their thoughts. The mayor came out strong against the bill. There was an alternative bill for rent stabilization, which is way more radical than the Small Business Job Survival Act. And so we were in a kind of holding pattern in anticipation of the fight coming up this spring. And then, of course, Corona hit. I spoke a few weeks ago to Corey Johnson's chief of staff. He said, look, right now the city is just kind of hanging on by its fingernails. We're anticipating a major spike of COVID cases. The threat of having to shut things down again is there. And hanging over all this is this huge budget gap, right? The fact of the matter is that the tax revenue in this city and the ability to cover New York City's bills is largely dependent upon real estate money. And so he was in court saying, this is a tough time for us to rock the boat on the real estate market. So I get it. But nonetheless, we still need to keep on fighting, and we got to put the pressure on them. Promises were made, and promises should be kept. And If we don't do it with this set of city council members, then we're going to have to look at 2021 and galvanizing the political forces that we got going in 2017 for the next city council.
What are the sticking points? What are some of the points of contention?
The Real Estate Board of New York is the point of contention. The fact of the matter is, REBNY, the biggest, most powerful lobbying force in city government and in state government for that matter, is totally against the bill. And they have gotten the mayor to kind of step in line. He repeats what they say about the bill, and he's totally against it. What's for it is the fact that we city council. Remember, we got 50 city council members. We could easily pass this thing. All we have to do is get the speaker to put it to a vote. Just bring it to a vote. That's all we ask. And we have the votes to get it passed. So Corey Johnson is a sticking point. I'm, like I said, still uncertain exactly what is holding him up. He's never said, he's never explained it. So any pressure that can be brought on the speaker's office would certainly be appreciated.
Francisco, did you have a question? I thought I saw your hand up, Francisco. No? Francisco, do you have a question? I don't think you can hear me. Okay. So the last question I have for you about this bill is, why is it important now? What is it? Is it because after COVID, is there anything different in terms of this bill?
Yes. And here's the scary thing, Tanya. If you were watching the rents, right, you would expect, oh my gosh, right, we've lost all these small businesses and there are more and more empty storefronts, more than this city has ever seen. You'd expect rents to go down, but they haven't, right? And this is the part of this high rent blight situation. The landlords have no incentive at this point to bring their rents down. And in fact, they are locked in because of the real estate speculation. What a landlord can do is on paper, ask for a rent that is double, triple what they could ever expect from a tenant. But it doesn't matter if they don't actually get the rent, because what they do is they get a reappraisal of their building based on this fictitious rent number. So all of a sudden, on paper, the building is worth that much more. They then can get a mega loan from a bank based on the new appraisal of the building, take that money, use it to buy another building, invest it. They can do a number of things with it to make a tremendous amount of money. So they're actually incentivized to not rent below what they put on the loan application. And if they did actually lower the rent to bring in a tenant, the loan would be called in and they'd be forced to potentially sell the building. So because of real estate speculation, all these landlords are locked in to an astronomical rent, which is why you have these storefronts that get left empty for years at a time. And you would wonder, how could they possibly be, making any money off this? And the answer is the money games of real estate speculation.
But weren't some people, landlords, cutting deals? And I've read something in the paper. These were like major chains, though, that they were giving them some breaks on the rent. That's not happening up here.
I look. I'm just looking and seeing, where the rents were and where the rents are. I have the drop that you would expect. And the very fact that it hasn't dropped, the rents haven't dropped that much, right, means that they're kind of holding on, hoping for the best, or along with that, locked into rents that they set before COVID and they can't lower. And this is the problem, right? So what the SBJSA is hoping to do, what the whole point of it is to keep tenants in their spaces, right? It doesn't protect, it's not going to lower rents in empty storefronts. But what it will do is it will keep the rents reasonable for the current tenants, right, that should have an effect on the market, right, dropping in a little bit. It's not particularly radical. Like I said, rent is still going to go up. Rent is still going to be astronomical, but it's not going to be at the absurd levels that we're seeing now that is causing this high rent blight situation.
Great point. I know you have to go, so I'm trying to, any questions or anything, anybody have any questions for him so that we can get him out? Anybody on the board? Any questions? Oh, we're good tonight.
Well, again, I really appreciate this time and so many other times you've invited me up to talk about SBJSA. I just would urge you, you guys are influential. You are influential on Corey Johnson, all right? Reach out. Let his office know that you need some action, whether it is the Levin bill, whether it is the Small Business Job Survival Act. Something needs to be done about this, right? Activists like me, screaming, we can only do so much, right? To get this message from community boards goes a very long way. So whatever you can do, please, urge you to do it.
Yeah, and I just so people know who are new to the committee, we did a resolution in support of this. So I appreciate your asking us to really get out there and push a little bit harder, because it is. I think we need to look at this again. I think my personal opinion is we just need to look at SBJSA again post COVID. At this point, this is a different world right now, and
different world, and maybe this crisis could be the wake up call that they need to hear. But anytime you want me to come and speak to this group or other groups, you just let me know, Tanya.
Someone has a question in the chat that says, "Does that work with residential as well?"
No. So this is just commercial, and it's just small businesses. That was a very major sticking point. We're not looking to protect Goldman Sachs, right? We're not looking to protect Chase Banks. We're looking to make sure that this is for small businesses.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I look forward to continuing to partner with you to see what we can do to push this along.
It's so good to see you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person.
Absolutely.
Until then, just let me know whenever you need me to talk to you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, David. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. So, we don't have to, because I know time is going, but I just wanted us to sort of just be aware of this program in case people in the committee weren't aware of the Open Storefronts program. So I just wanted to throw that out there. We can have a little discussion. I am working on getting DOT to come before us to answer any questions about that and any implications or anything that we need to know to educate our businesses. We can do that. So I'm working on that, hopefully for, obviously for next meeting in December. But, the Open Storefronts program basically assists existing ground floor storefront businesses who want to use outdoor areas on a temporary basis. It allows them to conduct activity on sidewalks, on roadways, so we're talking businesses engaged in retail trade, repair stores, personal care services, and dry cleaning and laundry services can also use these outdoor spaces for seating, queuing up, people wait in line, or displaying of their goods. Now, this program is available, started on October 30th, and is continued through December 31st. So I know we already have open restaurants and people utilizing the streets for that. And there's already, of course, some concern from people about, gathering, people not, patrons not adhering to the rules and things like that. So I just wanted to see what people thought about, is this something we want to engage and address in terms of what the addition of this open storefront will mean? And I am thinking about Black Friday. I'm thinking about the day after Thanksgiving and we're about to enter this shopping season. What this is going to mean. Any thoughts? Somebody can jump right in if you have any thoughts. Everybody's good with it. No questions about what this will mean. Have any of you seen anybody set this up yet? This is also going to be enforced through DOT. So this is also a DOT thing, just like open restaurants. So I haven't personally seen anyone set up. Has anyone else seen anybody set up?
I have not seen anybody set up like that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's anticipated that they will, especially as we get to the, start approaching, the heavy shopping season, so it's just something I thought we should think about, because now we're looking at retailers and others who might be impacted if there's no distancing, right? If there's no mask wearing, if there's large gatherings. So it could impact that segment of the community. If we don't have any other thoughts, we can just move on. But, I just thought it's something that we could, think about.
When I first heard about it, I was initially a little concerned about noise from the businesses. In other words, them putting out speakers to bring people over towards the things, but I've seen none of it. I think they have to make an application to the city in order to even do it. So
no, it's just like open restaurants. They just basically they self a permit. They basically fill out this form just like they did with the open restaurants, and they just basically self-certify and agree to abide by certain rules. It's the same, similar to open restaurants. So they don't have to be approved or anything. They just apply. They just self-certify and go and then proceed.
Well, yeah, my only concern was about the noise, and I haven't seen anything happen like that.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's a good sign. Well, I think it's something our committee should just keep an eye out for, in case, there are any concerns or we have businesses being impacted from enforcement of it as well. So it's just something to keep an eye on. Any other questions or comments on that? All right, you are good today. All right, so we can move on to getting towards the end of the agenda. And do we have any updates from our community partners in the cloth? You're with us. Do you have anything you'd like to share? Anything coming up? Anything we need to know? I know the gala is coming up and other things. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. This is L'Oreal from Cloth. I am the Small Business Development Program Director. So thank you for giving me a moment to speak. Yes, Cloth has their 68th annual gala tomorrow, and we have tickets starting at $25. So we hope that folks will be interested in joining us. We're also honoring 3 individuals, groups within New York, which includes Mr. Nieto from New York Presbyterian, and then, of course, Melba Wilson. So additionally, we'll also have some Broadway performances. So if you can join, please do. What we are working on at Cloth is focusing on the November 28th, which is Small Business Day. So we are partnering with Amex to try to garner some interest with our small businesses. And then additionally, we will be having our community tree lighting events, and we'll get those dates out to folks. And I believe that is all that I can think of on the top of my head. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
And I really thank you for bringing up the Small Business Saturday on November 28th, because I think we should acknowledge that. I'm also in the Health and Environment Committee, and I was saying that we should start having proclamations as a community board to acknowledge some of these things that are important events and things that are happening in our community, to recognize, like maybe have a proclamation to recognize small businesses for November, because we have our general meeting coming up on the 24th. So if Small Business Saturday is the 28th, it might be a good idea for if I will see what the committee thinks about that, to do a little proclamation. It's not anything involved, just a statement recognizing all of our businesses in recognition in advance of Small Business Saturday. So what do you think, Gloria?
I love the idea. I'm tickled. Yeah, absolutely. Whatever cloths can do to assist.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let's do it. I mean, I think we should partner on that and do a proclamation. What do people think? We don't do proclamations that much. I think there's some, like there are major things that come up, whether it's Women's History Month or whatever, things that come up that I think maybe might be a good idea for us to just do proclamations and just kind of, just state that we acknowledge that this is.
Yes.
What do people think? Any thoughts? Anybody have any strong feelings against the proclamation? Acknowledging small businesses in our community in advance of Small Business Saturday? All right. So I guess what we should do then is maybe we need to vote or something, I guess, to say if to create this proclamation that we're going to do a proclamation just acknowledging appreciation for our small businesses, especially in this time of this current challenge, that we appreciate them and we acknowledge them and on behalf of the Business Development Committee and Committee Board 12. Should we vote on that, or how does that go?
Yeah, we can vote on it.
Okay, all right. So, all in favor, Ashley? Yes or no? In favor of the proclamation?
Yes.
Okay. Francisco Lopez? Okay. We have Juan?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And Raphael, you were a public member, correct? Yeah. Raphael?
That's correct.
Okay. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Any community members that have any strong thoughts on want to vote? Community members, we can we'll just call them Nancy Preston. Proclamation. Can she hear me? Tara? Tara, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, okay, it's a yes or no. In favor?
Yes.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Rob, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Is it Bolte? Boete? Rob, can you hear us?
Yes, Boati. Thank you.
Boati. Okay. So
Sorry.
yes or no to a proclamation recognizing our businesses in advance of Small Business Saturday?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. Okay. Joseph Borello? Joseph, can you hear us? Okay, guess we're having a little problem reaching him. And we can't reach Nancy. Nancy Preston, no?
Yes, this is Nancy. I say yes.
Oh, okay, great. Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. So Ashley, you can record that. From the board members who are here, it was a yes, all yeses, and then we had the public members the attendees who said yes. So L'Oreal will talk about that, and I'll also circle back with Domingo, though. Obviously, in his absence, we'll circle back. I look forward to working with you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. So now we move into any old business anybody has? Anybody have any old business? I only have one thing for old business, and I just wanted to announce, and I did this in the Health and Environment Committee. We back in August 4th, we had a public hearing on noise in our community, and that public hearing, of course, some of you attended. It was hosted by the Health and Environment Committee, And at that committee, I mentioned that there should be a task force to form the committee to address that. And community members wanted a community-based task force that's coming out of the community. And so, a lot of there were several community members who worked really hard over the last 6 weeks doing outreach to various members of our community. And we have formed this task force. We have 22 people that are going to be part of this task force. And it's extremely diverse group of people. We have 12 of those people are identified as, 13 identify as people of color. 8 identify as Hispanic or Latino. 4 is Black or African American, and 1 is Middle Eastern. And we have 9 who identify as white or Caucasian. It's also pretty evenly split between Washington Heights and Inwood. So we have 10 members of the task force from Inwood and 12 from Washington Heights. And most of the people, the vast majority of the people in the task force either live and work or live in either Washington Heights or Inwood. So they're local people. And we have people who've been in this community all of their lives. Some said 52 years, 32 years, 40 years, 42. There was one person that was here 2 years, so it gives us a little fresher perspective. But people have been here a long time. They know this community. And we have representation from all walks of life. The reason I think this is I want to bring this up in a business community because we have a strong small business representation on this task force. Because they have been heavily impacted by the noise issue. And it's good to have their perspective. And also, yes, one moment, Francisco. And we also have representation from the elderly, young people, the youth, schools. It's an extremely representative group that I think will bring important perspectives from all aspects of our community to this issue. Yes, Francisco, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I've been meaning to ask about this task force and what exactly, what's the goal?
Yes.
Considering that it's going to get colder and noise is going to naturally go down, but also what are the, how can I say it? Like, is it a reporting thing? Like if you see something, you report it? Like what's the mechanism of how this works out and how it gets doled out?
Thank you, Francisco. Really great question. Yes, the goal of the task force is actually not about enforcing. That's not what we're doing. We're really, as a community, people are coming together to figure out what are the problems. We, looking back at what's been happening and especially what happened this summer, where were the major areas of concern? How did this impact people? Because we're looking at it as a public health issue. We do have members of Columbia University who are part of our task force who are joining us to talk about that. But the task force is just here really to come up with priority areas and ways in which this has impacted our community and come up with recommendations for solutions. And with that, the task force is going to be hearing from city agencies, other community members, other people to kind of gather, feedback, and they will come up with some solutions that and also who would be accountable for enacting whatever, recommendations they come up with, who will be accountable for ensuring those things actually happen. So it's about, really coming up with some community-based solutions that are not based not just based in necessarily one area, but a very holistic list of recommendations, but also about accountability. Because what's happened is that, people have been, reaching out, seeking, assistance with the issue, but they've gotten very little assistance and help in response. So the task force will be looking at accountability, who can do something about this, and in what ways can they engage, and making sure that they do so. This is not, about, NYPD. This is about all other ways that people, what the problems that we've endured. And it's not over. I will say, beg to differ. I don't get sleep right now because of dirt bikes and motorcycles just spinning around my neighborhood all night. So
No, I mean,
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah, that's it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the perfect time to do it. This is the perfect time to do this concentrated work while it is cold because it's going to get warm. Summer of 2021 is going to be here very soon. So this is a perfect time for us to kind of go, take that time out and really look at this issue and have the ability to just, take that moment while it is cold to sort of do this because, we want these, the goal is to have these recommendations, of course, before the summer of 2021. So the task force work will be done before then and hopefully we'll get some responses and some action. Any questions about that? Any questions from the board or from the public? And like I said, everybody is not a part, or like the task force itself had to be kept small, and we also had to make sure different segments of the community were represented. So obviously not everybody is going to be able to be in that, but we're going to have a community advisory component where we're going to just have meetings and like be able to share back with each other, get feedback from others in the community about, what challenge they're facing, what solutions they think we should enact, and as the task force itself rather should enact. And the task force can, we can share some of what's coming out of the task force. And so it's an opportunity. We'll be sending more information out about that once we meet. We're going to meet this month for the first time. And so I'll be sharing out, progress on that. And we'll definitely be engaging with the community board as well continuously about this because I think it's important. We are partners in all of this. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Any new business? Going once, going twice? Sold? Okay. All right. So it's 8:46. Can I get a motion to adjourn? All right. Francisco, second.
Second.
Ashley, second. Okay, we are adjourned at 8:46 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for, I know it was a last minute change, but thank you for your patience as we go through this. And, we'll see each other next month. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tanya. Bye.
Bye. Bye.